Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle Flannery, and I'm here to present my final project for reputation management. So I do have a brief presentation for you on Google Slides. So we're just going to take a look at that real quick. So my presentation is on Boston Market and how they were disappointing in a crisis. So just an overview of the case very quickly. Boston Market is an American fast casual restaurant that was founded in 1985. It was known as Boston Chicken until 1995, and per the name, it was founded in Boston, but now is headquartered in Golden, Colorado. Their CEO is Francis Allen, and he was hired back in 2018, so a fairly new C-suite executive. And actually, the company filed for bankruptcy in 1998 and closed 45 locations in 2019. So they do have a history of some financial hardship. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, their catering services were scarcely used, which did not help to add to this financial hardship, like I mentioned. But to combat their loss in sales from their catering services, Boston Market began to offer banquet meals that customers could pick up at one of the company's locations that was most convenient for them. And those banquet meals served about 8 to 10 people, so very good in terms of the CDC's guidelines for small gatherings. So next, I'm going to show you a brief timeline of the case. So in 2019, like I mentioned, Boston Market closed 45 of its locations throughout the country. And in November 2020, Boston Market begins to promote its pre-ordered banquet Thanksgiving dinners. Those are those pre-packaged dinners that serve about 8 to 10 people, like I mentioned earlier, and they were marketing these for the entire month of November. And then on Thanksgiving Day, the company receives complaints on social media about long lines, missing and incomplete orders, and workers not wearing PPE. So back during Thanksgiving, there was this predicted another wave in coronavirus cases. So PPE was a very big deal, for its employees to be able to wear, and all those other things like long lines and missing and incomplete orders were also just unjustifiable in Boston Market's sense as well. Then for the rest of November and in December of 2020, Boston Market just didn't respond to customer concerns and refused to comment on the situation. When media reached out to them, they would just ignore them, which in Boston Market's eyes is just very bad optics. And then in 2021, Boston Market is still yet to formally acknowledge this crisis. It's been over 6 months since Thanksgiving of 2020, and they just have not responded to anyone or acknowledged that this crisis ever took place. On to the next slide. We're just going to evaluate some customer complaints. So this one customer said, I just waited 3.5 hours at the Boston Market in Austin for a pre-order that was supposed to be ready at 6:30 p.m. Staff was not wearing PPE even when they were breathing down our necks. Customers got fed up as early as 4 p.m., so I was told and volunteered to help your staff. Like I mentioned earlier, this lack of PPE was very frustrating to a lot of customers, and it seems like there's no social distance guidelines at all in any of their stores, just based on this comment. And it's always a bad look when customers have to help employees of a company distribute meals to people who ordered them. And then another response was Thanksgiving 2020, having back issues, so ordered dinner for myself and my sister to drop off from Boston Market. When I got there, 3-hour wait in line, Thanksgiving chicken from Safeway, 2020 sucks. So just overall embraces the sentiment of 2020 that so many people had. And it seems like if they got Thanksgiving dinner from Safeway and not Boston Market, that they might have lost a customer for the future. Some more customer complaints. Boston Market was very tone deaf in their advertising and promotion of this. So on their social media accounts, they posted a happy Thanksgiving message while this crisis was going on and still refused to acknowledge it. So one of the comments on this message said, I'd be grateful if I didn't order ahead for pickup days ago and still be forced to stand in a line that's longer than the line for people ordering today. Happy Thanksgiving, but never again. So it seems like they lost a customer for life as well. And on the second slide on the picture on the right, they have a number posted that supposedly is open 24 hours to be able to place an order for pickup. And one customer responded saying, 24-hour order, liar, no one picked up that number, lie, lie, lie. So obviously not great when customers are screaming at you in all caps on social media, calling you a liar. So, like I mentioned, very bad optics on Boston Market's behalf. So, going on to the next slide, why they failed in this time of crisis. So, first of all, there was no response. Boston Market failed to acknowledge the situation overall, not releasing a statement, not responding on social media to any of its customers that really had this traumatizing experience. They also didn't have a spokesperson. They had no executive member or representative that was designated to release a statement, which would have been crucial in a time like this to just have that someone pre-designated. They also had no corrective action. So Boston Market offered nothing to appease its customers after they had this experience, which really was unfortunate for them because they could have salvaged this relationship with their customers and hope they come back in the future as opposed to just disregarding Boston Market as a place that they could go get food in the future. It also seemed like they had no plan, no planned course of action for the company for this crisis. They very may well have could have had a plan in place and just either ignored it or just decided not to use it. It looks like we'll never know, but just based on the response, it seems like that they had no predetermined plan or just overall blanket statement that they could release in a time of a crisis. Also, they were unavailable. So Boston Market declined to comment when press reached out to them. So they really had an opportunity to really take control of the narrative behind this crisis and really drive an apology and some corrective action that could have taken. But again, they just did not respond to media and let them control the narrative as opposed to themselves. And also, they just continued with business as usual. The company didn't issue any statements to employees to mitigate the crisis, which would have been great, especially because some of these complaints were Boston Market employees not wearing PPE or not social distancing. That would have been a great opportunity to enforce these outlines provided by the CDC and really emphasize their priority of customer safety and health, which should be any company's priority. So on to the next slide. My suggestions for Boston Market to really handle a future crisis. They should respond in a timely manner. I know it can be difficult to get out a statement within that golden hour of a communications crisis, but just any response in some sort of timely manner is better than just not responding at all and not just giving out an official statement. They should also establish a crisis spokesperson. This doesn't have to be a C-suite executive. It could just be a company member that has a higher level of employment, but just having them as a face behind the name of Boston Market, be able to apologize and say what they're doing to fix their crisis would have been crucial. And having known that before this happened would have been a really great plan of action for Boston Market. Also, there was no rectifying behavior from Boston Market. They could have done something that really helped out their customers, like give them coupons or gift cards or maybe a free meal in the future because of what happened to them. It was just such a traumatizing experience for so many people that they really had this opportunity to build trust and salvage their relationship with the public. And they just didn't take advantage of it, which was one of their downfalls in the end. And also just to have a plan, even if it's some broad blanket statement, an issue of apology, and then really edit it to fit the situation, that would have been much better than just having no response at all, like Boston Market did. That's the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed and have a great day.